Welcome back to Around the Table with Stacy Smith. We're talking about politics. So, Jim, you've seen the public polls as a former state party chairman. Your interpretation of how they stand right now, especially for the Senate race, because it is tight.
Sure. Well, let's get rid of the easy one first, and we'll jump to the Senate. I think they'll call the governor's race at about 1 millisecond after 8 o'clock. I look forward to being with all of you that night, but I do think that I'm being a little facetious. I think the governor's race will be called relatively quickly. I see no path for victory for Mr. Mastriano. As far as the Senate race goes, we saw this phenomena, a similar phenomena in the past more than once. But for example, with Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in 2012, it's the hourglass effect. The front runner's out here, it comes in, you get into October, it holds, and then it goes back out. I see the same thing happening, and the data tells us the same thing's happening here with Dr. Oz and John Fetterman. John had a huge lead. It was expected to come in tight on issues which we're now seeing locally and nationally. It seems to be holding right in here. If Dr. Oz was going to flip it, I think he would have done so by now. It's going to hold like this, come back out. But what we talk about at the end of the day, better retail will win, a better organized plan to get the mail-in ballots advantage Democrat. The coordinated campaign of the Democrats in Pennsylvania this year is as good as I ever saw when I chaired the party. So all those variables into one place. I think John Fetterman will pull this out. It will be close. It won't be this, but it will be this. I think John wins.
Age-old saying is the only poll that counts is election day, but let's look at the current polls. I agree. Again, since earlier in the show, Jim said he agreed with me on an item. I will say I agree with him on the governor's race. But there is something worth pointing out in the governor's race. The spend that we talked about in previous programs is, at least as of 8-9 days ago, was 27 times, including the coordinated money, 27 times more money has been spent by Shapiro than Mastriano. So for that race to be even as close as it is an oddity to me. But it tells me how Pennsylvania politics, and you can't just look at the numbers, and how they might not be completely in love with Mr. Shapiro. He's a populist. It might be more of an anti-Mastriano vote. As far as the Oz-Fetterman campaign, the momentum's with us. We're going to split our ticket. We split tickets. I've said this on this program multiple times. Dr. Oz is the next senator from Pennsylvania by, my prediction today is by 3 points.
Governor,
I think the governor's race is clearly going to be Shapiro. But I think Mastriano will do better than a lot of people think he's going to do. I think there's a quiet vote out there for him, and we'll be a little bit surprised with the number of votes he gets based upon the extreme views that he holds. In terms of the Senate race, it's probably too close to call. I'm not a big Fetterman fan, but as I said, he's the blue jersey guy, and that's who I'm with. I must say this, he went on national TV for an interview yesterday, and I was very impressed. It seems that he's meeting those criticisms about his health head on. I think he did very well. If anything, he engendered some support for his struggle in the face of this stroke. I thought he performed very well, and if that gets better, he's going to make this race a tough one.
I think, based on everything that's happened in the last 2 years, I agree with Joe. This comes down to red shirt versus blue shirt until you get down to about 2 points. And it can go either way. And it's independents and the third parties that are going to make the difference in both races. I think Shapiro has a little better chance of making a wider margin. But I think in the Senate race, it's going to be very narrow. And we probably won't know until the day after, well after the day after election, when all the mail-in ballots have been counted also.
Let me ask this question, because you guys are experts on this. As far as the polls go, Fetterman has, 3 times since maybe midsummer has crossed over the 50 percentile mark in these polls. Most of the time, though, he's around 45, 46, or maybe 47%. As far as Oz goes, he hasn't crossed much higher than 44% of the vote. If you're looking at these campaigns, does that make any difference at all that you're not over 50% going into the final couple of weeks?
You ought to ask that directly of Keith. I think with Senator Santorum, Keith won election after election with less than 50% of the vote.
Yeah, like you said, the third party candidates, people that choose to undervote. There is that strategy of looking at where you're hovering at 50, and if your opponent stays over 50 for any protracted period of time. You mentioned you saw a poll that he was over 50. I saw one some time ago. Every poll that I'm looking at the last 8 to 10 days does not have Fetterman at 50. If he was at 50, I would be concerned.
Yeah, I know. The 50s I'm talking about, I think there was one by CBS, which was around first week in September or so. So that was the last one I've seen where he was over 50%. So,
right.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate your insight and your comments today on the political races that are coming up. And I also thank you for joining us. And we hope that you join us for the next edition of Around the Table with Stacy Smith.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you.
Take care.